him.
I shape my dreams with data and drive. In the eRank scene, this place feels alive. Helping sellers shine, reaching new heights. Join the team where the future ignites. Sellers in control, watch their sales grow. Empowered to win with eRank we flow.
Hello, eRank, and
Hello,
happy
everybody.
birthday, Etsy.
Happy birthday, Etsy!
I saw you sneaking
really
that
bright.
up. Edit. Oh, has it got lights on it? Yay.
It lights up. Yay! Happy birthday, Etsy! Happy 20 years!
Oh, Debbie's going to be so happy with you. She always likes us to do hats and things. Oh, it's good. Like every single comment, pretty much, apart from Anna. Anna's the only one not complaining, but everybody else is complaining about the heat just now. So
It's a warm one here in Toronto.
yep, and Scotland. So if we look worse than usual, that's why, guys. Bear with us. It's also boiling here.
Expect a lot of this. I apologize in advance.
Yep. But I think your hat's getting some love.
Yay!
Did you make that yourself, or is that something you found?
No, that fully was in the dollar store earlier, and it looked cute, so I had to buy it.
It is cute, yeah. Oh, see, you
like
could be
cute things.
advertising your stuff, but Etsy's not worth more than $1, I guess. That's fine.
So welcome to the eRank Live. Today we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of changes that came to the policies, what you can sell, the creative standards, and keywords 101.
Yeah.
My favorite document.
I know, yeah. I think I'm the first person that noticed the changes to that one. So it's not huge. Calm down, guys, if you're worried. It's not a huge one, but there has been some changes. But then for a bit of fun, if we get through all of that, have snuck into the Wayback Machine and looked at some old stuff from Etsy, what it was like in the past. Some stuff even I don't remember. I joined Etsy in 2008, so I've seen most of it, but some of the very early pages are interesting as well.
My first purchase on Etsy was 2012, but I only started my shop in 2019.
Yeah, you're just a baby.
Just a baby.
But at least you've been aware of Etsy for a long enough time. And if you haven't seen, guys, we have a great blog post on the history of Etsy, celebrating the birthday and everything. If someone could pop that in the chat, it's a really good one. I know Sophie did a whole load of research. She was grilling us all about our past on Etsy and everything as well. So that's very cool. But
if you have any questions, don't forget to ask them. We will be answering the questions. We'll be popping in and out of whatever we're doing for your questions. So
exactly, one of us will keep an eye. Yeah. One of us will see, or someone yell if we're missing important questions. But let's at least pull up these documents, because I have a feeling it's going to take a wee while. So if you haven't seen these, Jessica pulled up these files, putting side by side of what the changes that Etsy have made. Thanks, Debbie, for the link to the blog. So here are the changes that Etsy have made. It was like last week they changed all their, well, we've seen last year they changed and made all these classifications, made by seller, sourced by a seller, and all of this. They've changed. Some of it is just superficial words, but some of it you have to really be aware of. So we will pull these up, and if you have any questions, just stop us. So the first thing is...
And I'll keep an eye on chat. Just
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, let us know what you think. First thing is just a change of some wording, where it used to say things that don't qualify as made by a seller, where it said before adding simple stick-on adornments such as commercially available stickers, stamps, or rhinestones, and now it says a commercially available base item with only superficial alterations such as the addition. So what that means in principle is always open to interpretation, but superficial alterations is a little more in depth kind of than just stick on adornments, basically.
Because odds are Etsy got a lot of questions saying, well, what about this? What about if I attach a pretzel to it? What if I attach this to it? What if I... And so they kind of just made a blanket statement of anything superficial. It's not just sticker stamps or rhinestones. It's anything that you're adding to it that's just to change the appearance of it and not the actual use or function of the item.
Absolutely. And Kat, you're right, define superficial. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like a legal document, really, that they put in these words that are open to interpretation. So basically, if something comes along that they haven't thought of and they're like, nope, don't like that, they can include that. They can't give every single example.
No. But they leave it open so that they can punish if they need to, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And Anna has now got her niche. She's going to be sticking pretzels on stuff. I think it's great.
More things need pretzels on them. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if that's an art thing or just I'm really hungry. Everything should have pretzels on it.
Oh, actual real pretzels. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So as you're walking down the street, you can just steal a bit off some random stranger's top. It's like, oh, lovely. Thank you.
The best art is edible. So like you're just walking down the street and you're just eating pretzels from your hat. Like it's nice. It's fun.
I thought you were doing like hair pretzels there. You could have like beard pretzels. That would be great.
Oh, it's only a matter of time. Well, sometimes they do get stuck in there, and then I have pretzel for later. It's great. Beards are great.
It's just saving stuff. Absolutely. Okay, so this, and Jessica, thank you for doing all of this. Where she's got the red strike throughs, that's just stuff that's been taken away. So you can see in this stage of the designed by seller, when we're talking about a bundle collection scan or PDF of someone else's work, they've removed all this section that was as digital downloads, except in the case of qualifying vintage items. So I think this is an interesting thing for people who are selling scans of vintage things. So definitely. And then using pre-existing designs or choosing from a production partner's ready-made templates, except in the case of items personalized by a buyer, see sourced by a seller. So these are things that don't qualify as designed by a seller, but they've taken these things out. So,
which means, do they qualify now?
It seems that way.
When you remove the exceptions, you would think that they're no longer exceptions, but that's a tough one.
Yeah, I was going to say contact Etsy. The problem is the Etsy support staff, some of them are answering really well, but they don't necessarily all know all the answers. They haven't necessarily been kept up to date. What we need, if enough of us contact Etsy about certain things, they will clarify things eventually. But if you're not sure, like if you feel things were against the rules that are now in the rules, but it's a bit hazy, don't put it up yet. It's better to err on the side of caution, especially with this kind of wordage and changes and things. And here in the handpicked by seller category, this is where they said to refer to. So items include only, and what was taken out, this also includes digital files of scanned vintage content like photographs, books, or patterns, as long as they comply with intellectual property. So that's been removed. So my read on it is you can't anymore on Etsy sell these things, but that's my read on it. So if you sell them, at least check with Etsy.
Yeah.
And handpicked by a seller. This is, I suppose, more of a kind of clarification. So certain things on handpicked by seller, you can find beautiful rocks or something, but you can't resell items from nature. This has been added. So you can't go into Home Depot and pick up a bunch of rocks and resell them. You actually have to go out and find these things. Again, it's open to interpretation, but...
And on this one, I think the biggest thing they wanted to do was to remove the word reselling, because reselling is not allowed on Etsy, according to them. And so putting the word resold now kind of, it gets rid of the negative connotation of reselling.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, it is. Well, they are saying you can't do these things, but they've changed. Yes, I missed that. Actually, yes, they've changed the words from reselling to resold. But yes, Kat says she's got a chap who speaks legalese. Yes, I think we all need one of them. The sourced by seller. This is an interesting one because they've changed the wording a little bit. Where you used to have for the table decorations, well, in the party supplies. So it used to say table decorations, balloons and streamers, holiday decor, party favors, and gift wrap. And now they're in their EG section, what it includes festive table decorations, balloons and streamers, and gift wrap. So I don't know, festive and holiday sort of means the same to me.
I assumed that those were synonymous, but I guess to some people they're not, because a holiday is a birthday, a holiday, not necessarily, but it is a festivity. So I think they're just trying to clarify that they don't just mean like for the holidays, they also mean like for any celebration. That was my take on why they did that.
I don't know. In the UK, we don't use holiday to refer to festivities, so it's confusing. So let us know, guys, what you think there. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's the same, but there are some other changes coming up.
Yeah.
Like here. So listings for items sourced by the seller must use the photo or video content of the items you have for sale, not stock or commercial images. And now it's saying listings for the items sourced by a seller must use photo or video content of the items you have for sale or commercial images, e.g. for the manufacturer or distributor, subject to our intellectual property policy. So that is a big change, because it was certain things like you can now sell gift baskets that you've created, but you had to have pictures of them. So does this now mean you could curate the gift boxes but never have them in your hands? It's an interesting change, but you are allowed to use the commercial images of the item. So,
and just note that it does say from the manufacturer or distributor. So if you're buying them from Walmart, you can't necessarily use Walmart's images unless those are also provided by the manufacturer or the company that Walmart gets it from, because Walmart's not necessarily the distributor in that case.
Yes, good point. Yes, and probably with a lot of, it says subject to intellectual property, you have to have permission to use these images. So like Walmart is probably unlikely to say, yeah, you can just rip stuff off our website for you to resell. So yes.
Exactly. And that also applies to things like if you're making cases for phones, you can't necessarily use a photo of an iPhone, even if you're sourcing it from Apple, unless you're doing what Apple says you're allowed to do with it. So you have to look at their intellectual property resources that they have on the website to see how you can use their images. You can't just use their images just because you're selling a case for their phone, kind of thing.
Very true. Yep. So in sourced by seller, again, things that do not qualify as sourced by a seller, they have added some things here. You can't have resold generic cooking tools or ingredients, chemical compounds, automotive, bicycle parts and repair tools, office, construction, gardening, cosmetic or home DIY supplies. So you can have like crafty tools, but not DIY type tools. Yeah, interesting. I'm just like chemical compounds. Where were we selling this on Etsy? But I think some of this just literally must be, it's things they hadn't thought of. People have done it and they're like, oh no, we don't want that. So So yeah, definitely interesting. It is a bit weird when you open it up to supplies for certain things. It does seem weird to sort of take away some of the things, but
Because I guess someone who makes like perfumes, they might like, as someone who's selling the ingredients to make perfumes, those would be considered chemical compounds, a lot of them. Like that
yeah,
kind of thing is probably what they're trying to limit, because especially as different countries have different rules about who can sell what and if something can cross a border and all of those types of rules. So they're just putting a blanket down and saying, don't sell that stuff.
yeah. With any of this, if there's a grey area, check with Etsy first. We are not legal people, and we don't know what's on Etsy's mind for sure. And this is another one that's interesting. So it's examples of what can't be sold. Generic resold items that may be used at a party, but either are not decor or have everyday uses, such as plain furniture, generic tableware, stage light, speakers, costumes, party favors, and seasonal holiday decor not specific to a single gathering or celebration. So I find that wording weird. Seasonal and holiday decor not specific to a single gathering or celebration. I suppose that's talking about not having like Christmas decor that you could have up all year, that you didn't, well, all season, that's just for the specific party or something. I'm not sure.
Like a cup that's green and doesn't say Merry Christmas or have an ornament on it or something. If it's just a generic plain green cup, then that's not acceptable. But if it was actually themed for the holiday, then it is acceptable, kind of thing.
Yes. But again, hopefully Etsy will come along and clarify these. I wouldn't hold your breath because they didn't actually clarify much of these things when they brought them out, but hopefully they will. I have had a few people ask me, does this mean costumes can't be sold? And remember, this is all in different sections. So this is sourced by the seller. If you hand make costumes, that can be sold in made by the seller, because that's your own handmade thing. But if you were just reselling costumes, that's not going to be allowed on Etsy. So you've got to check what category things are in. They're not saying costumes aren't allowed on Etsy. They're saying reselling the costumes aren't. And guys, let us know if you think we're missing the point on any of these, or you're worried about anything. Oh yeah, this is your category one, isn't it?
It's my world right here.
Yeah. So made by the seller. What they've changed, basically, I'll read the whole thing because it's important. What this used to say: items produced using computerized tools, physical items that a seller has produced in their personal shop or home using computerized tools such as a laser printer, 3D printer, CNC, or Cricut machine. Cricut circuit.
Which is weird because they specifically called out a Cricut machine, but it's any cutter. There's Silhouette. There's like all of the brands have their own now. It's weird that they specifically called out Cricut and didn't specifically call out a 3D printer brand or a CNC brand. I take offense to
that. Fair enough. These listings may be produced based on a seller's original design or using a templated design or pattern. They're often personalized or customized to a buyer's specification. And you can see from Jessica's wonderful color coding, it used to say these items may, and now it says these items must be produced based on a seller's original design. So now no more can you be using templated designs. But that is just, again, for the made by the seller. Because I was thinking, like, my mother uses a cutting machine to cut out the things that she puts on cards that she designs herself. That's like buying commercially available things to stick on a card. It's you can't sell these as made by yourself. But I'm thinking the same if you cut out 20 of them and sold them as supplies. That could potentially be, sourced by the seller or craft supplies or something. So it is.
Well, I think part of it is that the whole thing can't be just that product. Like if
Yeah.
if your mother were to buy a cricket pattern, cut it out, and then attach that to something, that's fine, but she can't just sell the cutout thing and that's it. Like that was
Exactly.
my interpretation of it.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. It's not saying this thing's absolutely banned. It's just saying this thing. I'm going to say this thing where you haven't put any effort into it, but that's not true at all. But this thing where you haven't had any further creative input. Now, I am well aware. I have watched my mum with the cutting machines. I've seen 3D printing. I've seen embroidery and stuff. These things aren't just put in a pattern and go, on you go, make it yourself.
Yeah.
You've got weeks of swearing at some of these before they do what you want them to. So I think Etsy's been a bit unfair.
But I think what they're trying to do, because one thing that really plagued Etsy for a while, for like a couple years now, is everybody buying the same template and then selling the same thing. And that's one thing that Etsy's trying to get rid of with the way that they're doing search and the way that they're frequency capping the amount of a single type of item that's being shown on the screen at once. If they look similar enough, it will only show one of them, kind of thing. So I think this is their way of doing that. In the 3D printing world, dragons are a good example, the Flexi dragons, where everyone started selling the exact same Flexi dragon in the exact same color, and now there's no variation that you're finding. And that's the type of thing that they're trying to curb. And that's what I gather from this, at least. So if you're designing your own things, then this doesn't apply to you at all, which is absolutely perfect. But they're just trying to get rid of all of the mass production of it, where tons of people are selling the exact same thing. If they're similar, that's fine, but they shouldn't be exactly the same.
Yeah, as Kat says, it's creative input versus manufacturing.
Exactly.
And I think that's absolutely fair. In the made by seller classification, you really are supposed to be having some creative input into it. So I think it's fair. I know it's going to hurt a lot of people. And I have a lot of people like that embroider designs onto clothing and things. They're getting mad, and quite rightly so, that you can buy a patch and sew it on, but you can't have this embroidered on. So basically, you could probably embroider your design onto a separate piece of fabric and then sew it onto the thing. But yeah. Anna's saying the SVG sellers won't be happy. Not necessarily. If they're, I've heard a lot of people say this. They're complaining and saying my shop will be dead because the people that buy from me are Etsy sellers to slap it on a t-shirt and things. It's never been in Etsy's rules that you can just buy something and slap it on a t-shirt. You have to have had some creative input in it. So if you're selling clip art, SVGs, any of these things, the idea is that people are using a part of it to work it into a design rather than just wholesale buying that one thing and slap it on a tee. And if that's what you've done, if that's your business model, because I know a lot of people have come in lately and you've been sold this idea by people, they've said this is what you've got to do. If that's what you do, that it's just Etsy's not the place for that. You can still sell it in other places.
This just seems like Etsy's clarifying and making the changes to this whole made by, et cetera, to match their actual policies, which were always, you can't just take a piece of clip art and stick it on something. And so now they're just changing the wording of these little policies to match what their actual policies are.
Exactly. Oh yeah, modification services. This is a good thing, I think. So before, modification services were not allowed on Etsy, but now it's in the allowed section. Modification services that alter a buyer's pre-existing item, tailoring a buyer's item, restoring or repairing, photographic retouching or color correction, or altering buyer's jewelry. So you are allowed to do modification. And I personally, let us know what you think. I think this is a good thing in that I think there's a lot of skill to this, and it is proper hand creative things. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. But
even though it was always prohibited, I know a few sellers that used to do this, or they still do it, where they take like a locket of someone's hair and they can put it into jewelry for someone that died, or that kind of thing, or they take pets' teeth and they turn it into jewelry. Like I know a few sellers that have done this, and so this is a huge upgrade that is no longer prohibited. They just were doing it, but now they can actually do it without problem.
absolutely, it's very cool, and I think it opens up to some extra creative people, which is a cool thing, because this is what we want, is more creative people to come to Etsy, and also hopefully the type of buyers that are looking for that are the kind of people that appreciate, old stuff, handmade stuff, the stuff that we want.
And this just adds the personalization, the like the real emotional element to it, like baby's first shoes, and now you can bronze them and do whatever, but you can do that on Etsy instead of having to try and source something outside.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely cool. Kat saying, I'd argue taking a single clip art and sticking it on a mug is superficial, so it's always been a no. Absolutely agree.
Exactly.
To my understanding, that always was a no. The thing we don't know is how much of a design input you need to have for it to be considered your design. My feeling, like what Bryan said, they're just wanting Etsy not to look all the same, full of the same things. So if your design is similar enough that when you search, a lot of other designs come up, then you'll get caught. If your design is transformed enough that the other stuff isn't showing up, it looks significantly different, then that's probably okay. Etsy haven't said this. This is just my thoughts of it. It's not a case of what the policy is. It's a case of how Etsy's going to enforce it. And I think they're going to enforce it by seeing what looks similar and going, nope, we don't want a bunch of similar things.
But I scaled it up 2% and rotated it 3 degrees. I don't understand how that's the same thing.
Yeah. So that's probably not design, but we're not Etsy, but this is what we're thinking. Yeah, Kat, I love that clothing alterations are allowed, as it's creative and makes things last longer. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. The end of, not the end of fast fashion, but cutting down on fast fashion. I love that. If I could find an Etsy seller near me and I had stuff, I'd be like, right, fix this, do this. I'd be doing tons of it. Yep. Services. Oh yeah. So in general, custom writing, design, logo, brand design, music, audio production, video editing, and illustrative artwork sold as digital files may be sold on Etsy. The final item should be sent to your buyer as an attachment via email or Etsy messages. I think this is cool, but I also have reservations, just because we'll get a flood of Fiverr people coming over to Etsy.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I think it's cool. I think just like alterations, video editing, designing, all this is a fantastic skill, and it is creative. And yes, these kind of people should be here. But there is already a big base of these kind of people. So that's my fear. But that's not Etsy's fault. I think it's pretty cool.
What'll be interesting is how they handle it, because Fiverr has a lot of portfolios, and the reviews are specifically to that service that you're offering, and there's a lot of ways that they make it less scammy. Also, you can send the file and then approve it, and if it's not approved, then the payment doesn't go through. Like, it's almost like an escrow situation, instead of here's the payment and then you wait and hope that you get what was created and that it's what you were expecting, versus Etsy. Like, I don't know how Etsy's going to handle that, because I mean, if a creator creates something and it's not up to your standard, or it's not what you were expecting, especially if it was sent through email instead of through Etsy messages, how is that going to be managed? So that'll be an interesting one.
Yep. But there should also be some really cool cool things appearing on the site too. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the services have been updated. Yeah, so what have we got? Allowed services, digital creative services, divination readings that do not advertise metaphysical outcomes. So this is a sort of new thing or a more explained thing. So this, if anyone does any of these kind of things, probably it's a good idea to talk to the people who were like selling essential oils and things, because it's a very similar thing for how to word things, not to make promises, but you know what you can get away, not what you can get away with, how you can explain it without saying it's going to do the thing. Because I know a lot like essential oils and, you know, people like that, like Debbie's had to do this for years. You can't say, you know, it's got lavender so it'll help you sleep. Say no, you can't say that. So now you can't say, if I do this it's going to bring your boyfriend back, so, or something like this.
I wonder why it's only for divination readings instead of everything. Because I'll write you a resume that'll guarantee to get that job for you. Like, that's a guarantee that you can't guarantee.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
That's an outcome, and you're not supposed to give those.
Yep. And then the prohibited ones, certain curated lists. There's more details in a bit, I think. Okay. Professional services, membership subscriptions, virtual gaming assets, social media services, metaphysical services, rentals, and listings created for the purpose of transferring money. And the last one is kind of a big deal. We have trying to be saying this everywhere. And it's not coming up. It's not this this slide, is it? But yes, the certain curated lists. Yeah. So this is lists that aggregate personal information, contact details, emails, or websites, wholesale vendors lists or customer lists, list of prompts that can be used to create content with with AI. I can't say words now.
Generative.
Thank you. Yes.
Took me 2 or 3 tries there. It's a hard word.
But yeah, so scammy curated lists or AI lists, Etsy isn't wanting. So interesting, but a lot of that was already banned. They're just letting us know a bit more. Is this? Oh no, here's more metaphysical things. So examples of prohibited, I'm losing the ability to talk. Metaphysical services include Reiki and distance healing, spellcasting, including attunement, binding, activation, and similar services, which is strange. They didn't have that before. I'm not sure why they have to add, why they have to explain what spellcasting is. If
and
anyone
get specific with what spells aren't allowed.
Yeah, it's only a binding. It's not a spell. Maybe they were having
the promise of an outcome.
Yeah, and they've changed. It used to say items with a metaphysical outcome, or now they say items that advertise a metaphysical outcome. So maybe people were arguing, no, well, I only say it does. It doesn't bring you wealth. Interesting. But yes, sorry, we're making fun of Etsy. We're not making fun of your listings. If you create things like this, it's interesting. And here's this is a change. Actually, I did have a few people reach out to me with this. So items related to spell work, such as herbs, crystals, and spell books, may only be sold if they qualify per another category, e.g. vintage spell book or a crystal that a seller handpicked from nature. Resold commercial spell work items don't qualify for seller-sourced craft supplies. So this is why you've got to look in, when people say, oh, you can't sell this kind of thing, no, look in what section it is. So this seller-sourced, basically people were able to sell herbs and crystals as craft supplies for magic things. now they can't. However, if it fits in a different category, so if you've compiled a gift box, or if you've found it in nature yourself, or if you've handmade it, then they could work, but they can't just be sold as supplies.
Emily Z asked, the ban on shipping cost upgrades listing is tricky. How do we charge buyers for return shipping in the case of exchanges, reship for the bad address info, etc.? We've actually never been able to create a listing just for shipping. You've never actually been able to have that in your shop. Some people do. Some people make an upgrade shipping listing. That's never been allowed, but you've always been able to do it as a custom listing through messages. So if you need to charge someone, you just create a custom listing through the messages, and that's perfectly fine.
Yep. Etsy have been saying this in customer support. As we said at the start, customer support team aren't always the most up to date, but enough of them have been saying this that I do believe that is the case. So what they're saying, that is, you got ahead. You got to the next slide, Emily. But services as prohibited items are listings created for the purpose of transferring money. So yeah, this is not, if you create something from a message, if you create a private listing, it's not going to go into one of these categories. It's a private thing. So you're probably okay, and you kind of have to. But yeah, for anyone that missed it, the now prohibited is collecting tips or gratuities, donations, raffles, or other types of crowdfunding, charitable donations, listings where the only item for sale is a digital download, add-ons with no physical item associated, e.g. express shipping, gift cards, and referral codes. I have done quite a few of that list in the past on Etsy. I'm in trouble. But yeah, so the thing that's getting a lot of people is the express shipping or the shipping upgrades. I checked on Etsy on a little search. There's around about 1 million listings. So that are, buy this as an add-on for fast shipping, faster processing time, rush order. So none of these things are allowed. But you can, there are, it's not ways around. Don't be looking for ways around it. And people are saying, oh, but you could sell an item that's a sticker that you bought that combines. No, don't try and work around it with things like that. Etsy have the way you can add it in a private message. You can make a private listing, or I think I put it. No, I didn't. And you can also change your shipping profiles to include. People can add that as an add-on. Oh,
when you're using fixed shipping, you can add upgrades, and you can add multiple upgrades. So for a single country, you can have 20 different upgrades depending on what they want, and one of those could be faster processing plus faster shipping. One's just faster processing, same shipping. One's regular processing, fast shipping. So you can actually create different upgrades within your shipping profile if you're using fixed shipping. It's not there for calculated shipping. It's only there for fixed shipping. Yeah. Anything that sounds like a loophole or a way to get around it, it might work, but you are risking your shop. You are risking being punished by Etsy if it doesn't perfectly fit within. If the person wants to come down on you, they could easily, because it doesn't fit within the rules.
Yeah. If it's a grey area, we'd prefer if you didn't do it, because we'd prefer the dodgy shop get shut down, and not you, who's just. Look, I love a good loophole. I love trying to find those things, but let's not do it with Etsy. Let's let other people get caught.
And the Geek Authority said, listening to the two of you and how uncertain and unclear these new policies read, why do you think Etsy don't explain better and give written examples of what they actually mean?
I think there's a good reason why they don't do that. Because they can't think of everything. So there will be new things come up that they haven't thought of.
It wasn't on
there
the
are
list. You listed things and it wasn't on the list, so that means it's
exactly.
allowed, and that's the excuse people will use. So by
Yeah.
making it vague, it's at their discretion instead of at our discretion.
Yeah, and it also means if they decide to take something down, they change their mind or whatever in the future, it's fine. They can take stuff down. They don't have to tell you. If it's a grey area, it's up to them. So
Yeah.
I understand as well, because at the end of the day, Etsy is huge, and what can be sold on Etsy is huge, and they can't give every single example. So we have to, this is sad to say because it's a kind of legal document, but we have to look at it with common sense and say, what was the reason for this policy? Oh, they don't want to be flooded with identical looking stuff. They would like people to have had a hand in creating things. They want it to be not scammy or anything like this. So you're thinking, if any of these things you're doing are trying to get around that type of a policy, perhaps think about not doing it, basically.
Yeah.
Some of the things make no sense. Like, I'm sure they've added gift cards because they have their own gift cards now, and they don't want us making them for our own shop, basically.
Well, you've never been able to have gift cards. You've never been able to sell gift cards as a listing.
Yes and no. There was loopholes. I got around it. No, but yes, you could never have gift cards quite like what they're saying, but you could have listings that counted as gift cards without being gift cards. And I look at that and going, no, that's too. When they've specifically said it, yeah, Kat, if in doubt, don't do it. That's that's it. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Jillian said, so at first we heard the design rule was more to help eliminate POD, but now the emails from Etsy support are a mixed bag saying people can't buy SVGs and sell products on Etsy made with those SVGs. So Etsy's never been trying to get rid of POD. They've just been trying to make it so that people aren't creating the exact same thing, buying the exact same SVG, putting it on the exact same shirt, and now essentially selling the exact same thing. That's what they're trying to kind of curb a little bit. But
Yeah,
they do
POD
allow
is
the
not
joining
bad.
of multiple pieces. So if you buy
Yeah.
2 SVGs and you put them together on a shirt, that's now a completely creative and new thing that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Jillian, it's a really big difference between you can and you can't do it. It sort of leaves thousands of us in limbo because we don't know if we can sell our handmade laser SVGs or not. If you handmade them, if you had a good hand in the creation of them, you can sell them. They're not trying to get rid of SVGs or clip art or anything like that. They're trying to get rid of people buying it and doing nothing to it and selling it as is. So there's 50 other sellers on the site doing the same thing.
Yeah.
If you created it, if you had a good hand in designing it, you can absolutely sell it.
Exactly.
Right. Just for funsies, seems we've got a little bit of time, but if you have more questions, we will cover them. But I used a bit of the Wayback Machine because it is Etsy's 20th birthday, which is crazy. So first of all, here's just an example of what a listing used to look at on Etsy in 2005. And what I find actually interesting here is how they play around with things over time. And it often sort of goes back to almost how it was in the beginning. They move like the description to the side, or they do this here, or they do that there, and then they go back to where it was. But I think you only had one picture. Wow, you only had one picture back then. Crikey.
One picture, sell was right at the top, so whether you're a buyer or seller, it doesn't matter. You're seeing the tools for it.
Yeah,
that was
they
the way
really
of trying to get people to sell.
There was a big push at the start. Yeah, come in and join us. In fact, in the blog, we saw the very first page that Etsy had. So it's very cool. And it is basically going, hello, come join us. Sell stuff. We have no buyers, but just sell stuff. So yeah, that was cool.
I do like that they had this is good. We've done this before. I do like how on the listing page they actually have the whole about the seller, so you can actually see more details about the seller instead of just the number of sales, the reviews, and the logo. So
Yeah, there
it's
used
kind of
to
nice as
be.
well.
Yeah, there was a lot more of getting to know the person you were buying from. It was very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that way people are just thinking, "Oh, I'm buying from Etsy." They can actually see the seller that they're buying from, which is nice.
Yep. And that's what it on the right is what it looked like in 2013. But we've got more coming.
More modern looking.
Yeah. Oh, for everyone who's been there for a while, the 404 error page. This used to be a favorite of many of us. It was drawn by Anda Corey, who I believe sadly passed away recently. But this illustration, I think everybody saw it. I thought it was cute when something went down with Etsy. We didn't get mad at them. We just saw the 3-armed sweater.
So I just want to throw this up here. That's exactly what we're thinking too, Pam. But today we saw something new that straight up says, no, you can't sell a product you made if you didn't design the original design.
I'm not sure what. Can you let me know what it is that I said? What bit that I said there?
That's not something that we said, or what we were saying was you can't just buy an SVG and put it on a shirt. But you could take a bunch of designs, put them together, and now you have something original. But she's saying, but today we saw something that new that straight up says, no, you can't sell a product you didn't design the original design.
If you can send us the link if you saw a clarification from Etsy. I've not seen any. I have been scouring everything today.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything today, but let us know if you've seen something official. That's not our understanding, but
a lot of it is just it needs to be in the right category. So if you say that it's designed by you, designed by seller, and you didn't actually design it, you just took something and slapped it on something else, then that's the wrong categorization and that you can't sell. But if it's in the sourced by or whatever the other ones are, then it might be acceptable depending on what it is and how much it's been altered or what's been done to the original design.
Yeah, that's our understanding. But if you let us know what it was.
There's a screenshot a manager or something on Etsy said it's floating on Facebook, and that's one problem that we have with Etsy customer support is they will all give different answers. If you ask the same question 15 times to 15 different support people, that you will get 15 completely different answers. Some of them will be, yeah, that's no problem, and others will be like, we will ban your shop tomorrow. And so there's no consistency with their support, especially with new rules. Once they come out, they have no idea what's going on, and so it's up to interpretation, but you have to interpret the right way. A lot of it's down to common sense, and it's just
Yes. So 2006, this is what the Etsy homepage looked like. So there's a couple of things, the bit on the left. One thing for a long time, and I loved it, you've heard talk about treasuries. The front page of Etsy often used to feature a treasury curated by a seller on Etsy. So someone in your team could make them, and there was loads of really cool things. But down the left, they were always experimenting with fun tools. And one I used at the time was the time machine, which was very cool, which is just basically the newest listings were a big thumbnail, and then it sort of spiraled back into the past, and you could do a little slider. I think you moved the hands of a clock to go back in time to see what listing had just been created at that particular second in time. It was great fun. There was a similar tool they called Pounce, which was the same. The new listings would pop up and you could pounce on one. It was very fun. And here we go, 2008, yes. So you can see the example here on the front page is a treasury by somebody. And a lot of the time they would make treasuries. People would make them in color themes or all sorts of things. So the front page was green that day for some reason. And yes, Pounce, you could, because there was a big drive for getting someone their first sale, so you could pounce and find shops that were waiting for their first sale, or you could pounce on shops that had just had a first sale. So it was just sort of more fun, gamified ways to search on Etsy.
I feel like nowadays that would be used to help the scammers find new shops or find low selling shops and
very
try and
true.
run their scams on them.
Yes. I think bad players spoiled it for us, but it was fun. And here is 2020. Again, we're still seeing the treasuries on the front page, but you had a lot more the ways to shop. This was always down on the left hand side, so you could pick by colors, you could pick treasuries. The pounds we just saw, but a lot of people hadn't heard of alchemy. I used to enjoy alchemy a whole lot, so this was a section you could go to, and it was buyers were requesting custom things they wanted. It could be detailed or it could be not detailed. So it could be like, I'm looking for a gift for my mum. She really likes this, this, and this. And then sellers would bid on it. They would say, here's what I can make. Here's what it'll cost. Here's how long it'll take. And then they'd get back to you and they'd either accept your bid or they'd reject it and stuff. So that was very fun. I don't know why that was a cool feature. It really was.
It would probably be very hard to do now with 96 million shoppers and 5 point whatever million sellers. That might be a little more complex and a little bit more too busy.
I think we lost a lot of the cool things. I mean, because they used to have the coolest chat rooms, but obviously that doesn't scale very well. But they had some really cool ideas way back in the past. And I think, that's everything I had. So, and that nearly took us to time. I'm quite impressed. Yeah. I made a presentation that nearly lasted a full hour. That's perfect.
My hair's getting frizzy from the heat and humidity.
Oh, sorry. So, do you want me to just keep you little so people can't see what a mess we're in now?
I didn't see how bad it was until I'm big again.
So sorry about that. Yeah, we could pretend we looked cute. We were tiny, but sadly, no.
For those that deal with Celsius, that's what we're dealing with right now. It's not pretty.
Yes. Well, I just found out because we never spoke. As I was saying to Bryan before I came on, in the UK we never talk about humidity. That's because it's usually about 80% humidity. So that if anyone ever has a go at Brits for not coping with temperature, it's because we live on a sponge and we are humid all of the time. So,
Jillian said, I think whatever Etsy's doing, they're finally wanting to get back to their roots. Do you guys think that's what's going on? Purely handmade? I think they should make us all prove it again. Yes. Not necessarily all the way. But in one of the latest earning reports, the CEO was talking about how they want to get back into handmade, that they want to start getting rid of resellers, which is now resold. But they're trying to clean it up so that it does get back to its handmade supply and wholesale routes, or vintage routes rather. That's the dream. It's just very hard because once the cat's out of the bag, it's hard to shove it all back in, especially with being a public company now and having all the investors. You got to make them happy to still bring in the profits, which all of the non-handmade stuff does bring in quite a bit of money. So it's finding that balance, but they are trying to make it so that handmade is the prime on Etsy again. Yeah,
someone mentioned, and I don't disagree, that's why they've maybe brought in all the like video editing, photo retouching and things. They've brought that in as a thing because that could well bring plenty of money. So it's a kind of service that can attract a lot of money. So it might replace some of what they're getting rid of. I think Bryan's right. I think they are wanting to return to their roots, not because they're lovely people. I'm sure Etsy has some wonderful people and some hard-nosed businessmen. I'm sure it's got all of it, but shareholders are baying for blood just now. So the way to do it is to say, okay, it's not been looking good. It's the public perception of Etsy has gone downhill quite badly. So they're trying to recover that because they have to.
It's true.
Oh, Anna wants them to bring Etsy labels to Ireland. Totally agree. It took forever for them to get to the UK, and then they were a mess for quite a while. But now Etsy labels are very good, and you do need them because, Etsy, the purchase protection program is much easier with Etsy labels.
It's true. The standards are called creativity standards, so I'm really hoping it's going to be back to a platform for creatives, but that might not be good enough for investors. Exactly.
I have to say one thing that will help that I'm very guilty of. The money is important. So if us creative people actually bought creative things from creative people on Etsy,
there would be
it
more
would help.
things.
Yeah.
It's true.
So I've been terrible for not buying stuff. And I think, yeah, if you're going to buy a cheap print-on-demand design that's mass-produced, buy it from Shein or Temu or something. That's probably not any. But if you're wanting to hand something that's designed and beautiful and created just for you, come to Etsy, I think.
Apparently it was in the forums, the community manager that went up in the forums. I have not been in the forums in the past couple hours, so I don't know.
Yeah, I saw something, but it didn't clarify that. I saw a clarification, which I put it up on my own YouTube channel, but it just basically said, "Oh, we're just sorting out the wording to make it clearer." And you're like, "No, you're not. You've changed things. You've clearly changed. There is some things that could be sold that can't, and vice versa." So, but yes, I've not been on the forum since this morning. I have been checking, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up on the forums. I haven't checked in the last few hours because we had to get some packages out, but I shall have to take a look. I don't even have a tab open for it. Weird.
No, I don't just now either. I usually do, so that is strange. Yeah. Okay, but hopefully someone will share and let us see. And in the next few days and weeks, things will become clarified. Things will become more clear, hopefully.
So,
if nothing else, just keep an eye on what people are saying are getting taken down, and we might get an idea, and make sure it's not you. So if you've got any grey area stuff, take them down just now, especially those express shipping listings. If anyone has them,
or gift cards or coupon codes or that type of thing within a listing, as a listing, those they've never been allowed, but since it's now in the creativity standards, they're probably going to start actively taking them down instead of just because what they were doing is, if they were already looking at your shop for any issue, that then would count against you, but they weren't actively looking for them. Now it seems like they're going to set their little AI to actively look for these things because they mentioned it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an easy one to take down. It's an easy one to find. It's an easy one to take down. So I expect upwards of 1,000 listings will be taken down in the next week or so. So yeah, take them down if you think there's an issue there.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're just about there. So
any last minute questions anyone has, or do we just start singing happy birthday, or what's the
Yay, happy birthday to Etsy. Yeah, so guys, don't forget to go and check out the blog. There's some really interesting stuff on the Etsy's the eRank blog. I don't know what Etsy's not really done anything for their birthday apart from snuck in some creativity standards without telling us. So.
And in the chat, Debbie did post the link to the Etsy forums with that post.
Oh, thank you so much, Debbie. That's great. Okay, guys. Yeah, so that's it. I won't be here next week, but you'll have Bryan with Starla, I think. Yeah, so think up your hardest questions and misbehave, be riotous, say all the rude words and everything. I'm going to have a great time.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and
do all the stuff.
Do all of the things.
Yeah. I'll see you in a couple.
And be successful. Happy birthday, Etsy!
It wasn't easy, no, but with eRank, we're trending now. I dreamed of topping all the charts. I wanted sales to blow up. Remember long nights crafting, no one clicking on my stuff. But I signed up for eRank. Now my shop's a rising star.